All right, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Living the Dream podcast. Today on the show, we are going through Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6. So let's get into it. In all your ways, acknowledge him, and he will make straight your paths. So that's what we're talking about today. What is it? That's always where we like to start. And I think Proverbs chapter 3, verse 6 is very simple in that it is telling you to do everything for God. So in all your ways, acknowledge him from the time you wake up to the time you go to sleep, through your sleep, with your thoughts, with your beliefs, with how you feel, with your actions, like make it obey God. Everything that you do, acknowledge him. And then it goes on to say, and he will make straight your paths. So this is interesting to me because I think a lot of us feel like our life can get sloppy, right? Like we're trying to do our own thing. We're out here trying to survive, trying to get money, trying to multiply that money, trying to create freedom, trying to do things we enjoy. But how often are we thinking, is this honoring God? Is this something that I am doing to acknowledge God? And if it's not, I feel like that's why we can get trapped in that mess. But then what's curious to me, what's interesting to me, is what happens when the answer to that question is yes, and your life still feels like a mess. And so in chapter 3, verse 6, it says, in all your ways acknowledge him. So say you're doing that, and he will make straight your paths. And what this is implying is that your path is not straight right now. And your life may be a mess. Maybe it's supposed to be a mess right now. Maybe that's God's plan for you. It's meant to be messy because it's meant to grow you. And in our weakness, which the mess in our life highlights our weakness, that's when God is made strong, right? So in all your ways, acknowledge him. And if you are doing that, it doesn't mean your path is necessarily straight right now. Don't lean on your own understanding. But, in all your ways, acknowledge him. That's funny because verse 5 says, trust in the Lord with all your heart. Do not lean on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge him. So you're going to be acknowledging him, and you're not going to understand why it's happening, what is happening, or what you're supposed to do next. But continue to acknowledge him, and your path will be made straight. Where do I want this to show up for my life? I would say, or where has it shown up in my life? My bad. My life goals. And so when I think about honoring God in all the ways, I think about waking up, and the first thing I do is like something to honor God. And the next thing I do, and the next thing I do, and the next thing I do. And so I'm looking at the activities in my life, whether that be working out is to treat my body like a temple. Eating right, to treat my body like a temple. Spending time with loved ones is to love and serve them like God has loved and served all of us. And if it's work stuff, I'm not just going to work to get a paycheck, but I'm working because I have purpose, because I have mission behind what I'm doing. And ultimately, everything I'm doing is to spread the gospel. Because once I know how much I'm loved, I need to love in every situation. I think that's a great way to acknowledge God. And specifically with my life goals, I have two. Financial freedom for myself and my family, and then raising the standard of living across the world to middle class America. So increasing wealth and abundance for people such that they're not lacking food, water, shelter, or a sense of safety. So that is where it has shown up for me, and my life goals are built upon the fact that I have felt deep pain, and from that pain, am looking to express deep love for the people in my life, starting with my family and then moving on to the rest of the world. Building my life goals on the fact that people are worth loving, even when it seems like they're not, you know? I think a lot of us will abandon people that are hard to love, but that's not what Christ did for us on the cross. That's not what I plan to do with my life. So I really want to reach the people that are hardest to reach, because once you start to knock over those dominoes, per se, the rest of them will fall, because you'll have systems, you'll have processes, and you'll have a heart that is primed to impact people. So where does future me want this verse to show up in my life? I would say with money freedom and beliefs. You notice my first goal was financial freedom for myself and my family. I almost want to say that's a limiting belief. I think that I can go on to spend my days raising the standard of living to middle class America without being financially free. But financial freedom for me is like a safe haven. It's almost something to fall back on. And so maybe that's not trusting in the Lord with all my heart. Maybe that's not acknowledging him in all my ways. Maybe getting money for me, getting financial freedom for me is a selfish thing. But on the other hand, it's also a stewardship thing where God knew when I was 14 that I had made this promise to myself, that I felt this stress, and then he put information in front of me that allowed me to get into rooms, to talk with people, to have ideas that would make me money. So for me to not act on those, that might be a lack of faith. And so this is what I'm talking about when it says, in all your ways acknowledge him and he will make straight your paths. My path isn't exactly straight. Like, I have an idea of my dreams, I have an idea of my goals. I'm like, is this acknowledging him or is this speaking to my fear? And part of me wants to say it's both, and it's this balance. And I've noticed this when I've asked people as I interview on this podcast as well. I ask people what limiting beliefs they're having and what actions reinforce it. Often they have actions that are rooted. They start from fear. Like, you're taking these actions to get away from fear. But when you're moving away from fear, what are you moving towards? And it's towards love. And so it's a really interesting dynamic where you can be moving away from fear and towards love at the same time. And then it's like, well, which one is the true motivation? And I would say that's where my path is still crooked. Like, I'm struggling with that fear versus love motivation. So I want this to show up in my money freedom, in my beliefs. I want to acknowledge God in every single way. And if that doesn't mean being financially free, then it doesn't mean being financially free. I can't imagine why it wouldn't, but so be it. Now, how can you guys apply this to your life? Honor God in the little stuff. And that means waking up. My dad used to say this. He was a pastor, and he would say, today's the day that the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad. He used to talk about that scripture a lot. I vividly remember him talking about that scripture because I will means that it is a choice. It is an act of obedience. It's not I want to, it's I will. And so honor God in the little stuff. Choose to wake up and rejoice every day. Choose to believe in his promises and then choose to act from those promises. And that can be showing up for a friend when it's the least likely situation for somebody to show up for that person. Or it could be showing up for yourself and God by reading the Bible, by taking care of your body, by taking care of your health, by taking care of your wealth, by stewarding the things God has given you well. It can be any number of things, but pick a small way to honor God today. It could be being at work and choosing to love your colleagues or your boss in a way by working well. I think there's this verse in the Bible where it talks about, in all that you do it as you're working for the Lord. It's specifically talking about your work here, because I know in Proverbs 3:6 we're talking about in all your ways acknowledge him. But specifically, it's like, don't work as you're working for man, but work as you're working for the Lord, because your treasures are stored up in heaven. And so you know that your reward will be given to you by God. So do your work as it is going to God. And so I really like that verse because it gives you a clear picture of acknowledging God in a way that a lot of people fail to. A lot of people hate their jobs. They don't like their jobs. I'm the same way. But if you can acknowledge God in that place, remember, in your weakness, he's made strong. So that's all we got for you guys. That's all we got for you guys today on the show. Thank you for listening. We will see you on the next one. And on that note, we're out.